What a day of NFL action. Heart-pounding stuff everywhere you look. None better than the Commanders. Here's the head coach, Dan Quinn, at the podium.
Good to get rolling. When I start, just as we get started, I thought, man, that was wild. That was so much fun. And what I love about the team is that, we're never out of the fight. And all week we had talked about the ball would decide the game. Chicago had a fantastic track record of taking the ball away and being very successful doing that after they've created, a turnover margin. So for us not to turn the ball over, that was a big deal. And we thought we'd have to knock one out. And the goal line fumble turned out to be the second biggest play of the game. But to get into the plus, that was a big one until the last play. And what I learned tonight, I don't know if I learned it tonight, but I wanted to acknowledge in that locker room is a group of really tough people that genuinely care about one another and play and coach for one another. And that's a hard thing to assemble. And it's not easy, and it takes work, and you got to go through tough nights like tonight, which at times was very frustrating. And but to see this group stick together and know that, like, man, we're never out of it, and that's a really big deal. So I wanted to acknowledge that as we get started. So now I'm ready for your questions.
Dan, a bunch of players said you guys practiced the Hail Mary. How close was that to perfection of that play, and kind of how much time do you guys put into practicing that?
Yeah, I thought the plays also leading up to it were a really big deal, because when you're in that spot, you don't have timeouts, and we used one early, obviously, to get out of bounds, to give yourself a chance at the next play. And I thought the real factor was there of Zach Ertz, going up to get a tip, to keep the ball alive, for Noah to get there, because it's hard just to go up and snatch it. So you almost have to go up and expect a bounce or a tip to go. And I thought Jaden did a fantastic job of, buying time over to the right side. I don't know how long the play was. Maybe you guys might, but it took a long-ass time. 13 seconds, yeah. I felt every bit of them.
So with that being said, Dan, I know in previous press conferences you've mentioned with Jaden out there, you'll still have a chance. So in that last play, were you thinking there was still a chance, or were you just kind of like, whatever happens, happens? I
thought we'd had a chance to get, if we could get up the field some. And so that's what I was trying to get to. Could we get into field goal range if we could get a big chunk and get a timeout and then get a must out of bounds? So that's what I was hoping that we would accomplish into that spot. And then when it turns into Hail Mary time, literally what it's named after.
And my second question is, great, team win, but it did take the offense a bit to get going. I know it's just right after the game. You haven't had an opportunity to look at the film, but just some initial thoughts on what you think went there to get them not going.
Yeah, it was a frustrating game because there was plays to be made, and so a penalty might have knocked us out, or maybe a drop here and there. So I thought the execution felt off from what we're accustomed to. But I would say also some of that we have to give credit to Chicago's defense. They're a tough and rugged group as well. And at the end, those are things that we'll clean up to fix, but it wasn't what we'd hoped we would do. Like yards can be sometimes deceiving. I thought we missed some opportunities out there tonight, and that's when frustration can set in. I just wanted to make sure on the sideline, it's the next one, the next series to go, that can make the difference.
Coach, have you been in part of a game like this before?
That was my first Hail Mary touchdown score, so no. I've been on plenty where we threw them, but that was my first connection one. So, yeah, I was out of my mind. It was fun.
And then final thing is, just to get a win like this, obviously it shows that you can win at any time. What does this do, though? I mean, that was a good football team that you guys beat tonight. So what does this do for this team going forward as far as confidence?
Well, I think, number one, going into it, we just really think in smaller terms of what we can do. And I wanted to see, could we find a next gear? And we missed on some tonight, but I thought defensively third down was a really big step in the right direction tonight. They've got some fantastic players, as part of their offense. And so to have a winning performance on third down, which has been a, problem that we've, worked through, that was a really big deal for the defense. So those are some things we learned. But at the end of it, it takes everybody. It's a punt by Tress to put him down. It's Jeremy McNichol recovering a fumble on the punt. And those are all these moments that add up to giving yourself a chance to go win it.
And on the At the end of the first half, you had an opportunity potentially for a Hail Mary. You guys decided to just hand the ball off and go into the half. Can you talk us through why you chose to do that? And then obviously at the end of the game, you don't have a choice and make a different decision.
Yeah, I thought probably in my mind, I just didn't want to get a, contact, and a big hit that could happen from that space. So I wanted to give us a chance in a 2-minute at the end of the half. It's something that offensively we've been good at. And so we've had a few opportunities like that over the last 3 weeks. So I thought, let's give us a chance. But I didn't want to over-try into that moment. But maybe now I should reconsider.
And then obviously defensively, they got going a little bit in the fourth quarter. What changed there? Was it a matter of them just hitting some?
I thought the big play by Swift, was an excellent run. Obviously, a big long play, that explosive play that goes for a score. Those are the things that you have to, fight your way through and come back for it. A lot of respect for their receivers, and certainly, Keenan and DJ, coached against a lot, and I know how talented they are. So. Those are real weapons that they have, and that's a good team. So, we had to fight our way through it, and, I was pleased to see what happened on third down.
Coach.
Not that the Commanders needed a springboard. This has been a good football team all season long. This could serve that moment as one of those springboards. They look to the second half. They got the Giants coming up in Week 9. Then a meeting with BMAC Steelers. Another tough defense staring down Jade Daniels.
Won't be no Hail Mary that night.
Big time action on a short week then. Turn around 4 days later. What could be a division decider. Early in the season, yes, but Week 11, a massive data point. Thursday Night Football with the Eagles.